Good morning, all.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so the last thing that we were discussing yesterday was more on the data accessibility, and that's where we discussed about the entity framework, which is one of the ORM solution provided by Microsoft to be used within the .NET context. It's available as entity framework in .NET framework and entity framework core or simply EF core in .NET core platform. Correct? That's what we discussed. Another important thing that we discussed here is the entire work of DAL is automated here, which includes the transformation of data from the relational format to objects and objects back to relational is also taken care of by this entity framework itself. We don't need to write any code for those things. Correct? We discussed about the persistence ignorance, where mainly the concept is all about writing your code in such a way that it doesn't matter what is the backend you are using. With just simple configuration, you can say I want to use SQL Server or MySQL or Oracle or DB2 or any other DBMS or RDBMS. Simply you change the provider and your application adjusts. You don't need to change any code implementation into your application. Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's where our session is going to start with today. The implementation of entity framework based data access, where we are going to see the object relational mapping working practically for us. Then we'll move on to ASP.NET MVC, where a recap of entity framework will also be there. And then we'll get into ASP.NET Web API, where we'll see how to create the HTTP based services which are capable to be integrated with simply any client which understands what is HTTP. Because the web APIs are actually a framework based on a generalized standard concept called as representational state transfer REST, and where the REST says mainly that whatever is the service, whatever is the operation provided by it, it should be accessible via simple HTTP requests like HTTP GET, HTTP POST, put delete, etc. Okay, so any client which understands what is HTTP, how to create requests using HTTP, how to receive HTTP response, will be able to integrate with the web APIs created on .NET. It could be the simple application as simple as normal HTML pages. HTML pages know what is HTTP because they are requested via HTTP only. If there is a form represented by HTML page, they send some data back to the server using HTTP only. To enhance those features further, some extended code can be written into the context with the help of JavaScript or JavaScript based libraries, frameworks, etc. And then we are also going to see exactly how the services can be tested. So instead of Fiddler, here we will be using a simpler tool, that is Postman. And we are also going to make use of a framework which is available as a package for .NET applications named as Swagger, which allows in-browser testing of our web APIs. Functional testing, I'm saying, not talking about the actual quality testing with unit testing and integration testing and all that. As a developer, I might be more interested in, first of all, looking at whether my service is accessible or not. If it is accessible, it is working or not. Okay, so that's what we'll look at with Postman and Swagger. In the process, we are also going to talk about some HTTP features, like how do we return HTTP responses. Even if there is some exception, how do we return that exception as a HTTP response? Precisely HTTP response exception. Then how do we implement different operations, get, post, put, delete? And then another important feature, that is media formatters and content negotiation, where the client may ask, I need data in XML format or JSON format or some other format. Exactly how that can be supported and configured is what we are going to see. Working with headers is another thing that we will be looking at. Request and response headers both. Custom headers also we'll look at. And we are also going to see how to make use of the HTTP query string feature in order to pass some parameters. Okay. So let's start. The first part, where we are going to implement entity framework using console application. Once again, today we'll be back to the .NET framework based console application instead of .NET Core. Though there is not much difference as such, if you see some elementary differences, and most of which are actually absorbed by your framework itself. Okay. So just go to Visual Studio. If it is not open, just open it. You will have the create new project dialog. Select create new project. If it is already open, you can directly say new project. Here we are supposed to select console application. So just make sure everyone is on the screen. Yes, everyone on the screen. Shall we proceed?
Yes.
Which console application we are supposed to select? I said the one with .NET framework. So make sure you select console app.NET framework here. Okay, click next. Just make sure you have selected the right console app. Project name, I'll name as CS underscore demo EF for entity framework. Set the path right. If not there in the drop down, you can always use this three dots button and set the path right. Now it is .NET framework, so the version of the framework has to be selected here itself. Whichever is the latest version, you can select that. Click create. Done?
Yes.
Now go to Solution Explorer window. Select the solution file, the one with the Visual Studio icon. Looks like infinity. Right click on this file. Select Add New Project. I hope everyone remembers how do we add the class library in the existing program. So it is actually the class library project I'm going to add here. Is it clear?
Yeah.
So once you say add new project, see there are two things. You can also say file new project, but that will create entirely different project in a different solution. I don't want that. I want to add a new project inside the current solution. So if you're going with the menu, it should be file add new project, or else simply right click here and say add new project. One and the same thing. File add new project, or in Solution Explorer right click solution, select add new project. So we'll be back over here. Yes? Everyone on the screen? Is everyone on the screen?
Yes.
Select library here in the third drop down. Now we are creating a .NET framework based application. So which class library template we would be selecting? Class library .NET framework. Yes? Selected? Class
Yes.
library .NET framework. Next, name this class library as CS underscore demo EF, exactly same as what name you have used for your main application first, followed by dot, followed by entities. Why entities? Because this class library is going to hold all the object definitions that will represent the data for my application. Understood? Understood? Framework
Yes,
should
sir.
be the same as what you selected for your main application. Click create. And you have the class library project added. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Rename this file class1.cs to department.cs. Press enter. Click yes, so that your class also gets renamed. Not a new thing. We have done this before, right?
Yes.
Here is my object, and here goes my definition for the object. what this department is going to have is, I'm going to use auto implemented property over here. So just type prop and press tab twice. You by default get the property signature like this. The first one is going to be integer. I want this property to be named as department number. Next property I create the same way, prop tab. Data type is string. Having name as department name. I want one more property here. So type prop, press tab twice, data type string, and then the property name is location. Done.
Yes, sir.
Now this object is going to be mapped to a database table, correct? Called as departments. Because the actual storage has to happen in a table only. Yes or no?
Yes.
Don't you think we should provide some hints to the system which will decide by what name the table will be created and mapped to this object, by what name the columns will be created and mapped to these properties, what should be the data types? Data types may be inferred, but then what will be the size of each of the string type? Don't you think we should provide that? What will be primary key? What will be not null field? Don't you think we should provide all this?
Yes, sir.
For that, we have to import couple of namespaces. System dot component model dot data annotations and system dot component model dot data annotations dot schema. Just make sure your spellings are correct, case are correct. It must be showing the error for you also, just like how it is showing it for me. That's okay, we will fix it. Done?
Yes, sir.
The problem over here is because the two namespaces we are looking to use come from an additional assembly called as system.componentModel.dataAnnotations.dll, which is not by default added to your console application project. In web applications, in Windows applications, you will find it's there available by default. But for console application, it doesn't get added by default. So you have to add the reference to it. What do you do? Which project needs that? Entity framework or entities? The code that is visible on screen which is having error is department.cs file code, which is belonging to the entities project. So I should right click on the references of entities project. Make sure you have right clicked on the references for the entities project which hold your department.cs file, and then select add reference. Done? Everyone on the screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Now, are we looking for some reference to be added to our own code or some system provided assembly?
System provides.
System provided. So go to assemblies on the left hand side and then use this search box to look for data annotations. Just type data annotations and press enter. The list is automatically filtered and it is showing just one item there. System.componentModel.data annotations, right?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
Make sure you select the checkbox for it. Done?
Yes.
Click OK. Once this reference is added, just verify if both the errors are gone or not.
Yes, it is gone.
Now comes the actual requirement of providing the mapping. So it all starts with the class. Class represents individual records. Individual records goes to some table. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Ultimately, this class must map to some table in the database in the backend, right? Here I use the
Yes.
attribute called as table. And I say it maps to a table named as departments. If the name of the table and name of the class is not different, it's going to be same. This attribute is not necessary. It will automatically map by convention. But if the names being used are different, in that case, you have to put the table attribute explicitly. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Same thing you have to do for your columns as well, which are properties here rather. I'll say this property department number maps to a column named as department number in the database, in the table. Here also, if the name in the backend database for the column and for the property is going to be same, I don't need to have this column attribute placed. By default, the same name will be used for property and for the column. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Now, every table must have a primary key, right? So here I say this column is having another attribute called as key. which makes it primary key in the backend. Got it? Got it? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Like if we use key there, then that column will be acting as a primary key. Is it?
Yes. Yes. It
Okay,
will
sir.
be designed as a primary key.
Yes, sir.
I want this column department name in the database table by the name dname. So I put column attribute. I want to make it not null. So here I put required attribute. I want it to have minimum length of 3 characters with a maximum of 50 characters, where n varchar 50 is what I'm looking for. So here I say string length. Max length I'll pass first, 50, comma, minimum length property I'll set as my requirement says, minimum 3 characters required. So I say minimum length is 3. These attributes help us not only to set up the design, but they do help us to set up the validations also. Basic validations, at least. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Then comes location. I don't want a different name for it. I want the column name also to be location. So I don't put the column attribute here. But I want this to be limited to 50 characters in length. And it can be a 0 length string also. So there is no minimum length restriction. Hence I directly go for max length. So can you tell me the difference between string length and max length? Max length is maximum length permitted. String length is extending max length. It says max length is the first parameter what is passed, but it also allows you to put the minimum length in place. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Save. Now see, usually whenever we work with the database driven applications, I hope everyone would agree if I say we start with creating and designing the database first. And then we go for the application development. Am I right? Am I right?
Yes, sir.
In this case, are we doing the same thing? No. We started writing the code first. There is no database in place. Yes. This is where the entity framework's code first approach comes in. Quite popular these days because it allows us the flexibility of developing the application independent of the database using some specialized testing frameworks like mocking, represented by MOQ library or Microsoft Fakes library. We can actually simulate the in-memory databases, and then when we are done with the development and testing of the application, probably that's where we can configure the real database as backend. And based on the code, whatever you have written, the database will be created on its own instead of you going and creating it. Application will set up the database for you. So it brings in some database generation automation also with it. Don't you think this is interesting? This is where persistence ignorance is doing its job. Yes or no? Yes or no? So this is the setup of entity. I may have 1 or 100 or 1000 entities, whatever that is required by my application. There is no limit on how many entities can be there. By default, per entity, there will be a table created into the backend database. Do you understand? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now, the next thing that we need is go to Solution Explorer. You can probably collapse this csdemo ef.entities project. Right click on solution again and say add new project. Another class library I'm going to add. Which class library we should be selecting? Yes. Which one we should be selecting here?
Class
.NET.
library with .NET framework.
Fifth one, right? Select this, click next. Let's name this as cs underscore demo ef dot DAL. What is DAL?
Data access layer.
Correct. What should be the framework version? Same as what we have selected for the previous two programs or previous two projects. Yes?
Yes.
Click on create. And you have the class library project created, right? Yes?
Yes, sir.
Let's rename this class class1.cs to company DB context .cs. This name is decided based on what is the name of your database. So suppose I'm looking for a database by the name company or company DB. In both cases, the name of this class must be company DB context. It's not a rule, but it's a convention. So that by name of this class, we can find out the name of the database easily. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
DB context, D should be capital, C should be capital. Reason over here is this class is going to inherit from one of the framework provided class that is named as DB context, and that's basically following the same convention. So usually in .NET, whenever we inherit a class from another, we try to use the base class name as the suffix into the derived class as well, especially if the base class is an abstract class. Okay, that's the same convention we will be following here. Press enter, click yes, and your class also should be renamed. Now, unfortunately, in this console application, the entity framework is also not added by default. We need to add entity framework library and its related libraries into this project. Okay. So just right click on preferences, or maybe I tell you the easy way. Go to tools, tools menu on the top, select NuGet package manager, and then select package manager console. A window similar to this should open, which is actually a command shell that accepts the PowerShell commands. Lot of information is there, so I can just say CLS, press enter, which is basically to clear the screen, so that we have the whole space available for our work. Done?
Yes.
Yes.
Install hyphen package, without space it is, install hyphen package, then there is a space, and then the name of the package that you want to install. I'm looking to install entity framework. What is the advantage of this package? This basically finds the DLL required for the project, downloads, installs, and configures it for my project, adds the reference also. Along with the current DLL, if that DLL depends on some other DLLs, that entire dependency tree is downloaded, installed, configured, and added as a reference to my project. Understood? I need not download, install, configure, and add reference individually to each DLL, which will be time consuming and something that requires more efforts and more error prone as well at the same time. Do you get it? Yes? One more thing you have to do before you execute this command is, here do you see this drop down labeled as default project? If you click on that drop down, basically there you will see the names of the 3 projects that your application has got right now. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Where we are looking to add this package. in the DAL project. So select csdemo ef.dal project over here as default project. Done?
Yes, sir.
Press enter. Now how long time it takes or how short time it takes, it all depends on how fast or how slow your internet connection is. Apart from being fast, it has to be stable connection as well, so that the things are done pretty quickly. It's not a very big framework with lots of dependencies, so usually it should not take more than 1 minute, even if you are working on a slower connection. Just confirm if it is done for you.
Done, sir.
Done.
There should be no red entry. Red entry means something got failed. Some messages you have to check. You must have successfully installed the framework name, what you asked for, followed by some version number, which confirms which version it has installed, to the project name in which you wanted to install, and then at the end, the total time elapsed.
So it's saying install is not recognized as the name for command.
Are you using install hyphen package with a space? Can you check?
Yeah,
There is
yeah.
no space
Yes.
after install.
Um,
Install
can you-
hyphen package is one command. Like
okay,
this.
can you please show me the command once
Here
again?
it is. Here it is.
You're saying no space after install.
Yes. Install hyphen package it is. There is a space after package and then entity framework.
Okay, sir.
Done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next, this project need to be aware of the entities also. So here once again I go to Solution Explorer. Under the DAL project, I have the option for references. Right click on the references for this DAL project and say add reference. Now, this time I'm looking to add the reference to something which I have built and which is the part of the solution. So on the left hand side, just select projects. Which project I'm looking to add as a reference in DAL?
Entities.
Entities. So make sure the checkbox for the entities project only is selected. Only entities. Okay. Click on OK. So here we have entities, here we have entity framework. Entity framework based on SQL Server as backend by default configured. Now starts the implementation of this. You might think that here we are going to write some insert, update, delete kind of statements. But if you remember yesterday, while discussing about ORM, I said this is supposed to be automated by the ORM. You should not be required to write all those statements, right? That's the advantage we get with ORM, and entity framework being an ORM solution should follow the same. And we discussed yesterday also that it does follow the same. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Let's see what exactly goes into this class. CS underscore demo EF dot entities, followed by one namespace from the entity framework package named as system.data.entity. Done.
Yes, sir.
Now come to the class, make it inherit from one of the base class named as DB context, which is supplied by this system.data.entity namespace. We didn't create this. The package that we installed has got the namespace system.data.entity, and within which this class DB context is already created. This DB context class is the one which is responsible for providing us all the CRUD operations in an automated fashion, which is why we are not required to write those statements manually. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
We just need to say which all entities this DB context will be taking care of for the CRUD operations. For that, we create a property. So again, type prop and press tab twice. Change the property type to DB set. It's a generic class, so here I will say DB set of department by the name departments. What this property does is it says that DB context will be handling the entity department, which means it will be talking to the departments table in the backend. What DB set represent is the collection of department, as the table will have more than one records into it. That collection will be available via the instance of company DB context class by the property name departments. Understood? So at the application level, I will be just working with the department class and the collection DB set. Nothing more is required. I never ever going to write any select, insert, update, delete kind of statements. I'm never ever going to work with the objects like tables and views and something like that. The ADO.NET objects. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Now I need to write a constructor for this class which tells the DB context class about where is the database, which server, how I log into it, what will be the name of the database. All this information has to be set up by the constructor. Just type CTOR and press tab twice. You get the default constructor automatically created, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Make it connected to the base class constructor by using :base over here, which means basically call the DB context class constructor here, as DB context class already has got a constructor that knows how to set up the database in the backend. I don't want to write code. I just want to say whenever the object of company DB context class is created, automatically the DB context class constructor should get called here. And here I pass the name of the connection string that I'll be supplying from main application configuration. Understood? I expect the main application configuration system to have a connection string defined into it by the name CS, which I'll read here and will pass to DB context constructor. Clear? Have we defined the CS yet?
No.
No, but we will be defining it shortly. Got it? Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Save all. This is all you have to do in DAL. See how simple it is. It is just a simple class we have created. Nothing special into it. Except DB set and DB context. Is there anything new that we did? Standard C# features only we are using. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Useful, right?
Yes, sir. Just one thing. Could you
Yes.
please explain line number 13 again?
See, ultimately, when you create the instance of this class, what is your intention? Don't you want to manipulate and retrieve the records of department table from the backend?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when you are looking to retrieve, they will be automatically retrieved and made available to users via this property. This property is going to represent the collection of department objects. One department object will represent one record, but table will not have one record. No, table will have multiple records. So this is a kind of a collection I have created, which is designed specifically to work with data coming from databases. Understood?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Next, when I want to do the manipulation like insert, update, delete operations, I'll not be going into the database directly. I'll do it first into this collection. I'll add to this collection, I'll update this collection, I'll delete from this collection. And then we'll inform the system that please go ahead and synchronize the changes with the databases. Understood?
Yeah, understood.
Basically, in a disconnected approach, I'll be working with this. Yes?
Yes.
So this also represents the local cache of the data at the client side. Understood?
Yes, sir. But if there is a very big database, then
No
won't
problem at all. Reason is here it basically works with lazy loading. So even if there is very big database having hundreds and maybe 1,000 odd tables, it will retrieve the data for only that table which you are asking for. It will not retrieve the data for all tables at once. Understood?
And yes, that is understood. And what about cleaning it up? Means,
You
will
can
it?
provide filters
Okay.
with the help of lambda expressions, or there is a feature that got added in C# 3.0 called as language integrated query link, with the help of which you can actually filter the rows which you are looking for. Understood?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So that we are going to see anyways. One of the operation we decided was search by department number, no?
Yeah.
You can try search by location also if you want. Understand?
Yes. Got it.
Now, go back to Solution Explorer. In your main application, do you see there is a file called as app.config? App config in main application. Look at that. Yes? Open it. It should look like this. Got it? Which app.config I said? The main application. CS underscore demo EF, the console application which has got program.cs. Just before program.cs, you must have app.config. Are you able to locate?
Yes, sir.
Open it. It must be looking like this. Just after slash startup, add. This is XML file, right? So you have to put some XML stuff here. You have to add a section called as connection strings. XML is highly case sensitive, so make sure the case is written correctly. Also, the spellings must be correct. I'll say if any system added connection string is there, first clear it off. One or more connection strings might be being pushed in by the system. I want to clear all. And then I say add. Name of the connection string has to be same as what the code is expecting. Code is expecting CS, right?
Yes.
Provider name, which decides to which database type I'll be connecting to. I'm looking to connect to SQL Server and I've decided to use the native provider for it. Reason? Native is always the specialist, means most optimized, most performance oriented provider. So I say go for system.data.SQL client. Write it as it is. As I said, this is XML and XML is highly case sensitive. Here I say the next parameter is connection string. For better readability, I pushed it to the second line. You can put it on the same line also, no problem. It all starts with server equals to the name of the server. What is the name of the server we are using for databases? Remember, on day one we provided that
SQL Server.
local db slash MS SQL local db colon. Then I need to give the name of the database. I'm looking for a database by the name company db. Semicolon. And I'm looking for the Windows integrated security. So I can say trusted underscore connection equals to true. It could be trusted underscore connection equals to true, or integrated space security equals to true, or integrated space security equals to SSPI. All three do the same thing. Trusted connection is the modern version. Integrated security equals to SSPI is the oldest version. And between the two versions came in integrated space security equals to true. One more thing I'll add here, that is multiple active result sets equals to true. What this does is it allows more than one operation, simultaneous operations on the same connection. By default, if this is not set, it is assumed to be false. And in that case, on one connection, at a time, only one operation is allowed. So if I'm looking to have multi-threaded application created, I will have troubles, because most likely I will be looking to share the connection object and do the simultaneous jobs, which will not be allowed. So if I want that to be working and allowed for me, that's where I need to put this multiple active result sets equals to true attribute. Understood?
Hello. Hello, sir.
Yes.
So in this line, like you said, database equals to company DB. So this is the same company DB we have put it in the entities framework.
Convention wise, yes, but that's not a compulsion.
Okay.
You can put any name over here, but basically for better readability and a better understanding, we use the same name.
Okay.
There is no relation, it is just a convention. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
And see, most important part is this database doesn't exist yet. Yes or no?
Yeah.
We are using entity framework code first approach. So we are coding first, and code will generate the database for me. Understand? Next, go back to Solution Explorer. You can actually collapse entities and DAL project over here and keep only the main project, the console application, expanded. Here I need to add the references. What do you think? This entity framework needs to know about the DAL project or not? It needs.
Yes, it needs.
So right click on references here under the console application, add reference. From the projects, select DAL. The checkbox must be selected and click OK. What do you think? Whether this project must be aware of entities or not? It must be. So again, right click on references, add reference, and this time select entities also, the checkbox, and click OK. You can do it in single shot also, no problem. Both DAL and entities must be added. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Now go to program.cs file. Import cs underscore demo ef dot entities and cs underscore demo ef dot dal, both namespaces. Done. Done.
Yes, sir.
Just before main, create an helper method, static void create department. Here I say department equals to new department. My department number is going to be automatically generated here because any column which is of type integer and is defined as primary key, the system automatically assumes this to be an identity column. We remember identity column, right? Sequentially 1, 2, 3, it will automatically generate. We have seen that in SQL Server. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So I just don't.
But what if we want to input different kind
In
of
that
numbers?
case, if you want to input explicitly, you have to block the default behavior of identity column. And that you do with one more attribute, that is database generated option dot none. If you put this, in that case, it won't be auto generated, it won't be created as identity column, and then manually you can input. Understood?
Yes, sir.
But now I'm keeping this out of the scene. Oh, commented again. This is just for your information as you asked the question. Okay, back over here. Now department number is automatically generated, so I need not set, or I need not take the input for department number, right?
Yes, sir.
And directly go for asking for department name. So I say console.write enter department name, then I say department dot dname, department name equals to console dot read line, and paste these two statements here. Say enter location. Here I say department dot location equals to console dot read line. Input is done. I want to put this in the DB context from where I want to send it to the database. So here I say using company DB context al equals to new company DB context. Now here you have to tell me what is the significance of this using statement. We'll fix the error shortly. First tell me what is the significance of this statement. This is not an import statement. This is something basically which says that create this object with a deterministic garbage collection policy. Means as soon as this object goes out of the scope, means this curly brace is finished, the DAL object will be forcefully garbage collected. This way, if any object is defined, the system will not wait for garbage collector to do the job. Understand? Understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. But why
what
are
is-
you using
yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Why are we using it explicitly here? Because the garbage collector will collect it at the end.
Yes, but see, company DB context is the DB context object, which is heavy object. And I may not want this to be left on to the generation 2 for long, because it may interfere with my other operations. This somewhere uses database connection. Database connection is unmanaged. It's not .NET. So any unmanaged resources which you are using should be released as soon as they are no more required. Do you get it?
Yes, sir. Got it.
So that you don't have any trouble of memory leak and all. Use and release. Use and release. That should be your policy. Got it?
Yes, sir.
Now what is the error here? If you look at the error message, it clearly says DB context is defined in an assembly that is not referenced. You must add a reference to assembly entity framework and the details there. Correct? Reason is company DB context is a class which inherits from DB context, and that DB context comes from system.data.entity, which is there in entity framework package, which is not installed here. So do you see here, if I go to this, I mean, if I hover on this error, there is a small light bulb coming up over here, and there is a small drop down associated with it. If I click on that, directly it gives me install entity framework option. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Select that, it will automatically get my package installed. Okay, so there are further more options like install package entity framework is having a subcontext here. Here I have options like use local version 6.4.4 or whatever, find and install latest version and install with package manager. Simply select use local version. It will get the copy of that package from your other project. It will be fast. This time it won't connect to internet. Understand? So once you are there inside the sub menu of install package entity framework, just click on use local version. So the command that we executed on package manager console is executed in the backend automatically. Here in the bottom left corner, you can see the progress. It says installing entity framework 6.4.4 completed. And that's why the error is gone. If you see the solution explorer, go to references, you will find entity framework is installed in the main project also. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Error is resolved. Then now I'm going to do some database operations. Don't you think it may fail at some time? Yeah, before that, the object which I have created and initialized with the values, I want that first of all to be put into the departments collection represented by my company DB context object. So can I say dal.departments? It is the property that we created. Dot add the department object that we have already initialized. Now here onwards, whatever I do, that may result in an error. If connectivity is not there, I'm connecting to some remote server and connection is not there, server is down, server is not available, network is down, whatever is the reason. Or if there are some errors data and server is rejecting the data, then also there could be an exception. Yes or no? Also, if manual entries are there. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Repeat.
What I'm saying is, if you are sending some data to database which exists on a server, there are chances of errors or not. It could be a connectivity loss. It could be primary key violation. It could be some other validation getting failed. Like when you apply for passport, you submit your documents. Your passport still may get rejected. Or there could be a query coming in saying we need more documents. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
So ideally that should be put in try catch block. Yes or no? Wherever we expect the exception may come, we use try catch. Yes?
Yes.
In try goes the code which may fail. So here I say int result equals to dal dot save changes. What save changes method does? It automatically detects what all changes have been made to the local collection. Which records are inserted records, which records are updated records, which records are deleted records. Accordingly, it automatically generates insert, update, delete queries for those records and executes them on the database. So your database gets up to date. And what this int result is going to capture is the number of rows affected by the save changes operation. Using this, I inform the user with an interpolated string. Result, rows affected. And if there is any exception, I catch it. I can go little specific. I can catch SQL exception here because I'm working with SQL Server. But say tomorrow I may change the provider in the configuration, right? So it may not be SQL exception, it may be Oracle exception. That is why I'm not catching a specific type of exception here. I'm catching a generic exception. Console.writeLine ex.message. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Could you please explain the save changes line? Int result equal to dial dot save.
Okay, so suppose you have an Excel sheet wherein you have to do the data entry. Okay, you added 3 rows, new rows. You updated 2 existing rows and deleted 1 existing row. If it is an automated system, do you think the system will keep track of which rows are the newly inserted rows, which rows are updated ones, and which rows are deleted? Yes, it will be. So what save changes does is exactly the same thing is detected by save changes. Which rows are inserted, which rows are updated, which rows are deleted. Generate the insert, update, delete statements accordingly for those rows and gets the job done on database server, because database server is a database server. It will understand SQL language only. It won't understand anything else. So if you are not writing the statements, there is someone who needs to create and execute those statements. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right? Suppose this training needs to happen in local language. Like now, your company is in Hyderabad, local language there is Telugu. And suppose I don't know Telugu and you don't understand anything other than Telugu. Still, the training needs to happen. How will it happen in that case? We need to have one person at least who knows my language and Telugu as well. Yes or no? Whatever I speak has to be translated to what you understand. Yes or no? Yes or no?
Yes.
So that is the job required here as well. And who is responsible for that? The entity framework. Precisely the save changes method. Understood? Isn't it interesting? The thing is, we are doing database operations, but we are still not writing any query. Whatever code is there on the screen, right now I can see this is pure C# object oriented code. There is no database specific thing that is happening here. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Don't you think this is making my life easier? I mean, developers' life easier?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
System is responsible for creating the queries. So system will always analyze the database and accordingly will generate the most optimized queries with little help from database administrator. The developer need not worry about the performance and all. System itself and the administrator will be responsible for providing you the best performance. Yes, your headache is reduced almost to null. Yes or no?
Yes.
How do I test this? Simply I go to create department, main method. I call create department here and then put console.read key. Before that, I say console.write line /n/n. Press any key, end the program. Little bit of formatting I can do. Console dot foreground color equals to console color dot green. In case of exception, here I say console dot foreground color equals to console color dot red, and in all cases, whether there is an error or not, I want the console color to be reset. So I just say console dot reset color, and I put that in finally because it finally executes always, right? Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's start. Okay, before that, the database is not yet created, right? Don't you think I should have a database created first? Of course, yes. But should I be creating database manually the conventional way? No. I want my code to be used for creating the database structure for me. Simply go to Package Manager console window, which must be now already open in the bottom. If not, you know where to take it from. Tools, you get Package Manager console. Issue the CLS command to clear the screen. And here, you simply need to select default project as DAL. And then you have to say enable dash migrations. If you are using .NET Core, in that case, this enable migrations is not required because in .NET Core, by default, the migrations are enabled. It's enabled dash migrations. There is no space. Press enter. Once you get the prompt back, at the same time, you will see there is a new code file configuration.cs created for you. And you will find this is created in the DAL project under the folder migrations. Doing some settings. Again, go back to Package Manager console and now say, by keeping this DAL project only as default project, you have to say add migration. Remember, enable migrations has to be executed only for the first time. Once it is done, you don't need to run enable migrations every time. For any changes you make to your database, I mean database structure or entities, you have to use add migration statement or command. Now this is the first time creation, so I'll name this as initial create.
Sir, in my case, it is showing enable is not recognized.
There is a space after enable, just remove that. It's enable hyphen migrations.
Okay. Sir, for me
So
it
for
says
me, it's showing format of the initialization string does not conform.
Just check your connection string once again if it is given in the proper format. It should be looking like this. Let me put this in chat box. It will be easy for you to compare. Check it out. Is it done?
So it's showing again the same, sir.
Can you share your screen? Okay, can you show me your connection string? Remove the parenthesis at the end after multiple active result sets equals to true. Save and try again. Just use up arrow key, it should take the command. Work, right?
Yes, sir.
So basically you have to minutely check your connection string if you get this kind of error. Understand?
Yes, sir.
Once it is completed successfully, I hope it's done for all. Anybody still facing issue?
add/migration, then there is space.
Add hyphen migration, then there is a space, and then within double quotes, initial create.
Okay.
Enable migrations as work for all, right? If yes, just write this command, add migration, initial create, and press enter. This is the most important command here, because this is going to detect what all new things you have created into your application in terms of entities, and for which the database either doesn't exist, or even though the database exists, the tables and the other objects related are not there. Just watch it carefully. Once it completes, it comes up with a file with some timestamp underscore initial create.cs as the name, which contains a class called as initial create, which is the name that we gave to add migration. There you have two methods, up and down. Up basically is setup method and down is undo method. Here I see create table, here I see drop table. So when I remove the migration, drop table will happen. When I apply the migration, create table will work. It has detected there is an entity called as departments. So based on that, it has generated the code for creating table departments with the column definition based on this. And this definition is completely based on the way how the entity has been configured. Do you get it?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, with this, it has just created the script over here in C#. It has not executed it. To execute this further, go to Package Manager console and write the third command, update-database. Without this, add migration is nothing. Update-database. No parameter to this, just press enter. So it will actually take that script and execute. Here you can see it's completed. Now I just open SSMS. SQL Server Management Studio, right? Server name already is there. If not, you can put that and connect. In the databases list, you should be able to see the new database company DB coming in. If you expand it, if you expand tables under it, you should see the table departments already created for you. And then if you expand columns, you have the columns as defined by you. See the names what it has taken. Primary key, indexes. So clustered index on primary key anyhow is all automatically created, right? We already discussed that. Right click the table and say select top 1000 rows. It shows the structure but no data into it as of now. Nothing entered simply. Correct? Everyone getting this?
So what did you click last? Only
Right click departments and select top 1000 rows. So you get this. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Now, go back to your application. I'm in Visual Studio. And just click on Start. Asking for department name, I put HRD. Location, whatever you want. Enter. In short while you should see the message 1 row is affected. Press any key to end the program. Just press any key there and it's finished. Right? Start again. Meanwhile, here you can come back to SSMS and click on execute. Your first record should be here. I enter 4-5 records like that. So let's say the next is finance and legal. Location, whatever you want. Finish. Start again. I call this as R&D. Purposefully spelling mistake I did there in location. Finish. Run again.
So I'm getting an error.
On
In the like after like writing department name and location, I'm getting an error like validation failed for one or more entities.
okay.
See entity validation errors property for
Just
more.
go to your department.cs file and check whether you have got this commented or not. You may not have.
No, I didn't even enter that, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Only validation error coming. So what is the department name you are giving?
Like some random like HR department like that.
Exact value if you can tell me. Is it just HR?
Yeah, is it just it is just HR.
That's why it is failing. See here we have given minimum length as 3, right?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sir.
And you are giving only 2 characters, right?
Yeah, now
Just
it's okay.
yes. There is no other reason. No, there are only 2 possibilities. Either the data entered is incorrect or probably this is not commented and you are not entering department number, right?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Meanwhile, I'll just come back here and say execute to see what all is entered. These are the things I see. Here I say one more record I want. Let's say department name is sales this time with location is Pune. And it's done. Again, execute this. So all 5 records I can see here. Yes.
So after clicking execute, I have an error in SSMS. It shows an object or column name is missing or empty. Like I have executed it in.
Is there
Visual
anything selected here?
Studio.
Is there anything selected here in this SSMS?
No, sir.
Nothing should be selected and then click on execute and make sure your correct database is selected here. It should be company DB selected here in this drop down.
Can I select this total? Select top 1000 and
Either select everything or don't select anything.
yes, sir. I'll select everything and execute once.
And also make sure the correct database is selected here.
Yeah, it's correct database. Now it shows the department name and location.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the final output that we should be having right now. Everyone getting it?
Sir, in my case, it is showing some built-in errors, but not showing what error it is.
Can you share your screen?
Yes.
Okay, it says one failed. Then you go to the error list. See, in the bottom you have error list tab. Double click on that line. Somewhere semicolon is missing. No, not link. Just double click on that semicolon expected, the error message.
Line 48.
Double click on that line, it will directly take you. Because it could be some other file also, right? Yeah, see, it's not line 48, error is on line 47.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we'll go for a break here for some time, and I believe by that, by the time we come back, all will be done with the data entry. Some minor mistakes may be there, you can just connect with each other and correct it out. So break can be utilized for that as well. Yes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we'll resume at 11:45. Okay.
Okay, sir.